Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are we doing this fine day? Hats falling off. Hope we're all fit and well. My apologies for my absence on Friday. I was here, decked out in all my finery. The show was scripted, ready to roll. Virgin Media, sadly, had other ideas. I guess on the upside, does mean we've got a giveaway for today. It's a double giveaway, actually. There you are. It's another one of those. Another Intermat notebook and pen. I was going to give that away on Friday, but as I say, Virgin Media had other ideas. So if you'd like to be in with a shout of winning that, you can do so. And hopefully, I have now rebooted the randomizer, so hopefully Mr. Hatcher won't win again, because I think he's hacked the system. Then again, he might choose to take a backseat. Who the hell knows? Let me just remind you of how you can enter. Do it very, very quickly. There you are. Type the name of the city that will be hosting this year's Intermat into the chat. Should be very, very easy. I'll give you a clue. I was there a few weeks ago, and it's got a sodding great tower in the middle of it. Yeah, it's running across the bottom of the screen. You know how to enter. I am going to say some very, very quick good mornings. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to say good morning to Gary Muirhead. To Ken Hatcher, to Dan Cullen. Apparently, Dan and Gary actually met up yesterday. My ears were burning the entire time you were together, gentlemen. Mark Whiting's here as well. Morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Dan Cullen says, how the begoogles are we? How the begoogles indeed. Mick Norton is here. Good morning, Mick. Good morning to Jim Turner. Good morning to Chris Ford. Have they renewed the string? We shall see. Ken Hatcher very kindly saying, I won't enter today. Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much indeed for everybody else. Now, lots of entries coming in, and I've just realised that I haven't actually set up the thing to record all the entries, so I may get you to do that again a bit later in the show. But first of all, what am I going to do? Oh, yes, it is Monday. Sorry, my confusion. It is Monday. Which means that there is a new column out today. It is called Where the Bullet Holes Aren't. Yeah. And I have to say, I am actually quite proud of this one. I'll leave you to judge. But if you would like to have a read of that, I will add the link to the chat. There you are, Where the Bullet Holes Aren't. But if you're in our WhatsApp group, don't worry about taking down the link, because I will go and make it happen on WhatsApp a bit later in the day. But yeah, to just let you know. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. I do need to let those fine folks over on Instagram that are watching the show, you can't actually enter the competition from where you are. If you'd like to enter the competition to win the Intermat notebook and pen, you need to go over to somewhere like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. Yes, you can do all of that over there. So good morning, everyone. It is Monday, the 29th of January. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, the latest compact excavators from Volvo. I need to know whether you believe them to be hot or not. The maiden voyage of a massive Liebherr crawler crane. Bobcat is laser focused, and we're crushing it with Mobirex. Plus, it is mud, glorious mud for those, or for a bunch of Kobelco excavators. Before we get to all of that, we're going to peer back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this very day in history. On this very day in 1595, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet was performed for the first time in public. In 1845, Edgar Allan Poe published his poem The Raven. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. 'Tis some visitor, I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more. One of my favourites, that is. In 1942, the radio show Desert Island Discs aired for the first time. In 1959, Walt Disney released Sleeping Beauty. In 1964, the movie Dr. Strangelove premiered and gave us the famous quote, "Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room." And in 2002, US President George W. Bush coined the phrase the axis of evil. He used it to describe Iraq, Iran, and North Korea, but it probably applies just as well to Piers Morgan, Katie Hopkins, and Simon Cowell. Plus, on this day, can you believe it's been a full year? Plus, on this day in 2022, Doosan officially changed its name to Devellon. So happy birthday to Devellon. Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we get into the question of the day, I am going to, what am I going to do? Before we get into the meat of the show, should I say, I'm going to remind you of our question of the day, which is this. Yeah, our question of the day today is this. What is your favourite ice cream flavour? Now, I love a bit of decent vanilla with hot apple pie, ideally, and I know a few people have said that. On its own, I'm going for chocolate, none of your strawberry nonsense. I used to drive, and this is absolutely serious, I used to drive to Gatwick Airport, so about a 20-minute drive, purely because they sold chocolate and honeycomb ice cream. But when all is said and done, praline and cream from Haagen-Dazs, the daddy of them all. It contributed heavily to my diabetes. But what about you? Let us know in the chat. We will come back to that at the end of the show. So let's begin, shall we? Okay, people, it's hot or not time once again. This time I'm going to lay before you the very latest Volvo compact excavators. And all I need for you to do is to watch the following film and decide whether you believe these machines to be hot or not. Here we go. So, what are we saying, people? Do we believe those Volvo machines to be hot or not? Now, just to let you know, our friend Graham Footy Williams, actually said they were hot before they even came on the screen. Such is his faith in the Volvo brand. Ken Hatcher says, that's not the right one. For the first time this year, Ken Hatcher has said hot. He believes those machines to be hot. Dan Cullen says sweater hot. Gary Muirhead says hot. Mind you, anything from Volvo is red hot. I think we can all agree that those are very much hot. They will be going forward to our grand final, which will be sometime in December, I guess. And when we decide amongst ourselves which is the greatest product of the year, 2024. Look out for that. I'll be keeping you posted when we get a bit closer to it. In the meantime, let's have a smidgen, a soupçon, if you will, of this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Let me very quickly say another couple of good mornings. Mick Norton, I know, has joined us. I think Mick Saunders is here as well, and I'm sure I saw his name go through the chat somewhere, and now I can't see it, but I'm sure he's here. Glenn Johnston's here as well. Good morning, Glenn. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Yes, lots and lots of good comments coming through. Keep them coming. One other thing, and I'm going to do this properly at the very end of the show, but there was a thing that really pissed me off on LinkedIn this weekend. The Environment Agency boasting about the fact that they had fined a fisherman more than £1,000 for fishing without a license. Now, I fish. I have a license. Not this year, I don't, but I will be getting one before the new season starts. £1,000 to an average Joe just going out for a Sunday afternoon fishing. And at the same time, the Environment Agency are sat on their hands, twiddling their collective thumbs, while the water companies pump sewage into our waterways, and they do nothing about it. Does that not obviously gets my goat about the Environment Agency, but the post office, the debacle with the post office, all of those little sub-postmasters were easy to sue because they were individual people and they could be crucified. And they were, but not the post office itself because it was government owned. Think about the tax man or the tax situation in the UK, where you have individuals like me, like you, being chased for 500 quid here or there, whatever it might be, in back taxes, but the likes of Amazon and a whole Starbucks as well can basically operate here tax-free because we are easy pickings, people. I'm going to come back to that at the end of the show because it, as you can probably tell, it has got my goat just a little. And I do want to address this one. Dan Cullen says, are you considering new stickers and where we can watch? I am planning that. In actual fact, we were talking about this a couple of days ago. My plan is to get some done in time for Intermat. If I get them in time for Intermat, then we'll obviously have some left over for Hillhead and then also for Mine Expo as well. So my plan is to get another batch and get a bit of an international distribution as well. Mick Saunders says, do you need a license on a tidal river? I believe you do. Yeah, I believe you do. I mean, certainly I have fished. I'm not even sure what the river is down at Pulborough, but that requires a license, and that is very much tidal. So, yes, please, if anybody's got any thoughts on not just the Environment Agency, although I do think they are particularly bad, and think about the Health and Safety Executive as well at the same time. You know, they will prosecute you for having your laces untied on site, but when it comes to prosecuting actual big business, not a bit of it. Not a bit of it. Now, should we crack on? I think we probably should. Where did we get to? I tell you what, I'm going to play this. I'm not entirely sure if I've played it before, but I'm going to play this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
When I was a kid, lasers were considered a thing of evil. Goldfinger attempted to cut James Bond in half lengthways, up between the thighs, using a laser. Lasers were weapons in Star Wars and just about every sci-fi film since. But today, apparently, lasers are our friends.
If you demand accurate grading that saves time and material, you're probably familiar with the advantages of laser-guided grading equipment from Bobcat. Now, Bobcat laser-guided grading systems are available with your choice of two receivers, the LR410 from Trimble or the LSB200W from Topcon. I'm Rob Reister with Bobcat. Let's take a look at these options that are compatible with Bobcat machines. The laser receivers help enhance and extend the abilities of your grader. The laser receiver is mounted to a mast on the attachment blade. Grade information is sent to the machine's hydraulic system, which controls the blade to an accuracy of 3 to 6 millimeters, or about 1/4 of an inch. The Trimble receiver has LED indicators for laser strike position from the center of the receiver, notifying the operator of out of range, power, and error status information. The LR410 offers a total of 231 millimeters, or just over 9 inches, of detection length, keeping you in the laser beam longer. Regardless of your application, from flat work to dual slope grading, the LR410 ensures accurate leveling on virtually any job site. Built to last, this receiver has a die-cast, hermetically sealed housing that is designed and built to the most demanding construction industry standards. Another laser receiver compatible with Bobcat machines is the LSB 200W from Topcon. The Topcon receiver has screw mounts that enable quick and easy setup. A 360-degree laser detection range provides great coverage and accuracy for fine grading work. The LSB 200W has a rugged waterproof design, great for wet and dirty environments. This receiver has easy-to-read LED indicators that provide instant operator feedback to keep you productive, efficient, and on grade. The indication lights visually inform operators if they are above, below, or on grade. The Topcon LSB 200W delivers on-grade accuracy within 1/4 of an inch for great grading results every time. Both Trimble and Topcon laser receivers are fast to set up and easy to use. High accuracy grading saves time and money with fewer passes and less fuel. You simply attach the laser receiver and go to work. Bobcat displays and software are fully integrated with the receiver. Want to learn more? Ask your local Bobcat dealer or visit bobcat.com.
Bobcat, laser focused as always. Excuse the pun. Quick reminder, as it stands at the moment, we've only got 4 entries so far. If you want to win that, which I can show you, all recycled paper and a very nice Intermat pen as well, all you need to do is type into the chat the city that will host the Intermat show a bit later this year, in April, come to think of it. As I say, we've got 4 entries at the moment. Think French cities, think French capitals, think the Eiffel Tower. Think of the city that all of that applies to, stick it in the chat, and you could well be walking away. You're not going to be walking away with it because I'm going to send it to you first, but you could end up winning. You could end up winning one of those fine notebooks that I hold all the way back from the city in question. I'm struggling not to say it, so I'm going to move on. Let's have a little bit of this, shall we? Yeah, I'm going to pop back to the chat because Ken Hatcher has just said, first time I remember encountering lasers was in a CD player. I think, me too. Although in actual fact, and that would predate it actually, I do remember my paternal grandfather taking me and my sister and my mum and my dad up to Oxford Street one Christmas. It was the first year that Oxford Street, rather than having the usual Christmas lights, they had lasers. And we actually took a trip to, didn't actually go shopping, but we took a trip to Oxford Street and to Regent Street purely to look at the lasers. They were all red. They didn't move. They were quite dull with hindsight, but we were very, very impressed. Speaking of lasers, Gary Muirhead says, I use the Topcon receivers on my grading beam. Worked perfectly. That is the thing. That is the thing with lasers. They only know one way, and that way is pure accuracy. Now, I don't know if you can remember this, but last week, seems like I've been away for an age after the failed show on Friday. But we were talking last week about mini excavator blades, which led us to talking about Kobelco excavators, which led us to talking about Blade Runner machines as well. So with all that fresh in my mind, I was delighted to see a new film from the fine folks at Kobelco, and it looks a little bit like this. Mudding site, superb machines. Although I'm going to throw this up. Mick Norton, Kobelco video, unimpressive. He says, unimpressive. Okay, each to their own. I am going to say a very quick good morning to our friend Craic over at CSW Groundworks. If you're not following Craic on LinkedIn already, do so. He puts out some fantastic videos. Bit of a Kubota fan. I don't have a problem with that. And he was also enjoying the music. I want to throw back to Ken Hatcher, who says all the room they've got on that video, the Kobelco video, and they still trash the counterweight. Dan Cullen on the same subject. I can't understand how some operators don't watch their tail swing. I bet they're working in reverse as well. Gold dress is doing my head in, always in reverse, says our resident sprocket man. Thank you very much indeed for all of that, gentlemen and ladies. If there's any ladies in the chat, I'll come back to the chat at the very end of the show. But we need to crack on. I think we need to crack on with one of these.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Right, we're losing Mr. Hatcher. He's off back to work. No problem at all, Kent. Have a good day, my friend. He hasn't entered, which gives everybody else a chance. 1 in 5 chance of winning these. Notebook and pen, all the way from that French city that I'm not allowed to mention. So please do have a think about it. French capital. Type the name of it in the chat. You could be in with a chance of winning that notebook and pen. Now, I'm in the wrong place. I need to be in this place. Yes, here we go. Oh dear, something's gone horribly wrong. No, it's back. It's okay. No, don't panic, Mr. Mandarin. When you think about it, and I don't suppose you do very often, but when you think about it, crushers, bit of a one-trick pony, aren't they? Excavators, wheel loaders, skid steers, telehandlers, all of them can perform a multitude of tasks. But a crusher, big rocks in one end. I'm just going to get that comment off the screen. Big rocks in one end and little rocks out the other end. And yet somehow, I don't know how, but somehow they still manage to make them look cool. Yeah, I think it's fair to say they're crushing it. Pretty good, right? We're about to mention Intermat again, but before I do so, remember, if you'd like to win those, you still can. Where are we? I think it's still a 1 in 5 chance. It is a 1 in 6 chance now, actually. Somebody else has entered while I wasn't paying attention. So if you would like to be in with a chance of winning said notebook and said pen, just enter the name of the French capital over in the chat. That's all the clues you're going to get, apart from the fact that, as I say, sodding great tower in the middle of it. I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about. So yes, let's talk about Intermat, shall we? I find myself on the horns of a dilemma this morning. On the one hand, I don't like cranes. Don't understand them, don't want to. On the other hand, I'm a huge fan of Liebherr, who obviously is going to be one of the exhibitors over at Intermat in that French city that I'm not allowed to mention. And they also make some fantastic films as well. So on this occasion, I'm actually going to let my heart rule my head, sit back and enjoy. Okay, I will grudgingly admit That was pretty awesome. I know, I think it was Chris Ford has asked, what is the maximum lift capacity of that crane? I don't know, but I know what the specification is. I will go and take a look for you. Watch this space, as they say. Yes. Couple of things. I want to draw your attention to a thing which has just dropped. No, I can't. I'm going to do it after the show. I've got another new column. I'm writing like going out of fashion at the moment. I've got another new thing that I want to tell you about, all about influencers, inspired by our friend Steve Williamson, chatting on this very show a week or two ago. I'll drop that in the WhatsApp chat as well when we get to it. But before we get to all of that, we do need to find out who has won today's giveaway. We've got a 1 in 7 chance of somebody winning it. Do excuse me. Let's throw it up on the screen. There you are, 1 in 7. You've got about 5 seconds. If somebody hasn't already entered, just the name of the French capital in the chat. That's all you need to do. And I'll be pressing the button in, let me think, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Chris Ford. Chris Ford doesn't make a nice change to not say Ken Hatter at this point. No offense, Ken, but it does make a lovely change not to be saying Ken's name. Chris, you're a winner. You're the proud, or you soon will be, the proud owner of. Let me get this off the screen. There you are. You'll be the proud owner of that. I think I've got your address, but please let me have it just in case, because I can get it in the post for you today. Please let me have your address, and congratulations, Chris. Well deserved. And as I say, makes a very, very nice change. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. And there is there is Steve Williamson. Morning. Oh, sorry, I was reading a great article. It's 100% on the mark. Hope to get my review video up soon on the JCB. A real review, another real review of a JCB. Already had one over the weekend from Jim Turner. Very honest over on LinkedIn. And we've got another one coming from Steve. Only this time it's going to be in video form. Didn't see Dan's name on it. That's weird. I'll have a look when the show's over, Dan. I don't know what's quite what's gone wrong there. No more notepads, no more pens to come. But there are more prizes to come, and I'm sure you will be in with a shout on all of those. So congratulations again to our friend Chris Ford. As I said, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And I'll see you again some other time. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around, because the Craic will be back immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Good morning, gang. Let me turn that down. There we are. That's much, much nicer. Only entered to put the numbers up. It's a secret. Send it over to Ken for the Craic. No, I'm not going to send it to Ken. He's already got enough of everything that we do. But seriously though, Chris, if you don't want it, I'll put it back in the hat tomorrow, and maybe Dan Cullen can enter this time. Yes, good morning, guys. How on earth are we all doing? Who was first off the mark? Yes, Gary Newhead was first off the mark, and I by the sound of it, it was quite a brief meeting, but Messrs Muirhead and Cullen got together yesterday up in Glasgow. I can turn that banner off now because we already know who the winner is. Bear with me 2 ticks. There we are. Get rid of that. Yes, apparently the Messrs Muirhead and Cullen met up in Glasgow yesterday for a cup of coffee. I'm now running a dating service, it would appear. Who knew? Ken Hatcher was second off the mark. Morning, Ken. I know you've been and gone, but good morning to you anyway. Dan Cullen, there you are. There's the other part of the dynamic duo who met up in Scotland just yesterday. Mark Whiting is in the house. Morning, Mark. Hope you're fit well. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you all had a good weekend, come to think of it. Who else we got? Mick Norton here and Jim Turner's here. There is our eventual winner. Good morning, Chris. Have they renewed the string? Yeah, I can't tell you how frustrating it was. I woke up on Friday morning last week to find that we had no internet connection. Got onto Virgin and they said, we're working on it, engineers in the area. And I could actually see one of the guys down the road. We're working on it, should be back to you soon. We eventually got an email or a text message actually that said we'll be back by 4. It didn't come back on until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was sat here in all my finery, hat, glasses, script in front of me, microphone ready to go. Could do bugger all about it. So my apologies for that absence. But yes, we are, as you can see. The very fact that you're hearing me now means that we do have new string and a new set of cuts on each end as well. There's Ken Hatcher kindly saying he's not entering today. On the competition, Gary Muirhead, you may as well just send it to Ken. Well, as it turns out, didn't work out that way. There is Gary's entry, there's Mick Norton's entry, there's Dan Cullen's entry as well. I wonder if the system was actually picking up from YouTube. It's supposed to, but I don't know if it did. There is our question of the day. Gradually working through our questions of the day that I created over Christmas, and that was the latest one. Question of the day: what is your favourite ice cream flavour? I've already said it. Love a bit of chocolate. A decent. I'm not being a snob about it, but a vanilla ice cream with actual bits of vanilla in it. Big fan of that. Like me a 99 from your ice cream man as well. Not a problem with that. But if I'm going to sit there and really tuck into some ice cream, Haagen-Dazs, praline and cream all day long. Oh, lovely. Dan Cullen says I'll be having a break about 10:30. Just trying to see if I've got a clock up on here somewhere. So about 10 minutes ago. Fantastic. Jim Turner entered. Failed miserably, I'm afraid. There is our friend Footy as well. On question of the day. There we are. Ken Hatcher. Chocolate. Good call. Jim Turner. Mint with chocolate bits in it. Yeah. Although I quite like. I can't actually remember who made it. There was one that was chocolate with like shards of what I can only describe as like mint glass. Obviously not glass, but crunchy bits of green mint in a very dark chocolate. Oh, see, I was all over that. Gary Muirhead is a vanilla man. Never had him down as a vanilla man. I had him down for, I don't know, whiskey, haggis, something like that. Is there a... I'm going to ask the question knowing that somebody's already done it. Is there a haggis ice cream? I bet there bloody is. Jim Turner, yeah, it doesn't seem a year since Develon kicked off, but apparently it is. They posted it on their thing today. I think where there's a bit of a gap was I think they did that internally a year ago, but us mere mortals didn't get to see it until March when ConExpo rolled around. So I think that's where there's a bit of a disconnect. But yeah, it's been around for a year. Chris Ford, rum and raisin. Oh yeah, rum and raisin. If you go to these places that do 50 different ice cream flavors. They've got Oreo cookie and Snickers bars. If they've got a rum and raisin, that's me. I have a real dislike of anything boozy. I don't like sherry trifle. Anything boozy as a dessert, don't like it. But I make an exception for rum and raisin. Mick Norton, be very specific. Ross's vanilla. I don't think I know Ross's. Feel like I should now. There's Dan Cullen saying vanilla as well. Lots of votes for vanilla. Mick Saunders, vanilla. That's if I can keep the hound at a safe distance. Yeah, one of the great joys of owning a boxer dog. You have to kind of envisage what a boxer dog's head looks like. If you've got like a Labrador or a German Shepherd or something like that, it's got a long pointy nose, which is ideal for getting into a tub of ice cream. A boxer dog, on the other hand, has a big wide face. They can't get into a tub of ice cream. But let me tell you, doesn't stop them trying. Oh, yes. The last knockings of a tub of Haagen-Dazs, they're all over it. Footy being very upmarket. Black cherry and chocolate chips, my favourite. Never heard of black cherry and chocolate chip, but I like the sound. It basically sounds like a bit of a Black Forest Gatto in ice cream form, which I'm okay with. Question of the day: Italian gelato. Yeah, but it's one of those things. I agree, Gary. I love it, but it's one of those things. It's like San Miguel beer. San Miguel beer, by and large, bloody horrible. Until you're sat on a beach in Spain, in which case it becomes delicious. And I say the same about Italian gelato. Italian gelato here in the UK, not worth a light. Give me an ice cream any day. Get to Italy, or now we're talking. Although I have to tell you, we had an ice cream. Don't think I've got a photograph of it. Got an ice cream in Verona when we were there for the Sonota show. There's a big square in the centre, well, several, but one big square in the centre of Verona. Ice cream shop, went in there, and they did, a couple of flavours on a cone. And in actual fact, I had cherry and dark chocolate. But they didn't just do scoops and put it in. They put it in slithers. So you ended up with holding a cone with an ice cream rose on the top. Didn't improve the flavour at all. Didn't hurt it either, but very, very nice indeed. I think we are in agreement, those Volvo machines. Hot. They will be going forward to our very first, actually, product of the year show, which will be way off in December, assuming we all last that long. Dan Cullen reckons it's sweater hot. What would be hot is return of the Volvo. I tell you what, I just realised I'm wearing the wrong glasses for the chat. The Volvo. Is that BL71? Don't know what the BL71 is. But Gary Muirhead is saying anything from Volvo is hot. I totally agree. Dan, Jim Turner says, warm enough, looks handy tool with the thumb. Volvo excavators. Tepid? Hey, listen, that's what opinion is all about. And if Mick reckons they're tepid they are. All compact excavators now, all mutter of muchness. I know what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree, but I know what you're saying. There is our friend Glenn Johnson. Good morning to you, Glenn. Hope you're fit and well. Answer to the question, are you considering stickers with the hashtag and where you can watch? Yes, we are. As I said, we are planning to do something for Intermat in Paris. Going to order a larger bunch because we actually got rid of 2 batches of the last stickers. They're all gone now. Got rid of 2 batches of those. So the plan next time is to get a load done for Intermat, which will carry over to Hillhead and hopefully will carry over also to Mine Expo in Vegas in September. So it would have to be a pretty big batch, I would say. Chris Ford says, I'm going to be a party pooper. Not unless they're stolen or on fire. Nothing new to see here. Move along. Now waiting for the hate mail. No hate mail here. But listen, I thought the Volvo. I think Volvo already makes some bloody good compact excavators anyway. I think they've taken. I think one thing I would agree with Chris and also with Mick. We're talking about iterative changes now. We're not talking about revolution. It's here's a mini excavator. Here's the next generation. Here's the generation after it. We're not talking about revolution, we're talking about evolution. But I take your point. Mick Saunders, question on fishing. Do you need a license on a tidal river? We'll come back to that, but yes, I believe you do. Let's have a look. Dan is going to get a load of the stickers, see what we can do. Footy says go on the Dove website. I'm not sure it's the Dove website. They'll tell you all about fishing with a license, even if you fish in a canal. Yes. Mick Saunders says, mind you, not that I catch much from the Thames. You're doing it wrong then, Mick. Plenty fishing. Well, used to be plenty of fish in the Thames. Haven't fished it for a couple of years. Obviously, it's now full of sewage. So maybe not quite so straightforward anymore. And Jim Turner, on that very same subject. And as I say, this did really get my goat over the weekend. Just typical of government organisations and big businesses. Too many mates of mates looking after each other whilst fucking the average Joe over. And that was precisely my point. You know, it does appear that if you're big enough and ugly enough, you can get away with damn near anything. And I listen, we are fast approaching the 8th anniversary of the Didcot disaster, in which 4 demolition workers were killed. I've already started to write something on that, but as I've said in previous episodes of this show and others, if that had been for politicians, for doctors, for lawyers, for barristers, anyone white collar, do you think we'd have waited eight years to find out what happened to them? I don't think so. And also, and again, you know, I can't preempt any kind of prosecutions, assuming there is a prosecution at some point. But if it turns out that they can find a way to blame the demolition company involved, I'm sure they would prefer that to blaming the client, i.e. The energy company that was operating the Didcot power station, because they are guaranteed to get something out of the demolition company, whereas the energy company has probably got enough money to keep that in court for another 8 years, if not even longer. That's my point. Footy rightly says, if you're going to get a fishing license, get a yearly one. It's cheaper. Yes, it is. I don't actually know what the cost of a fishing license is, but well worth getting it for a year. Mick Norton says, anyone aged 12 or over who fishes for salmon, trout, freshwater fish or eels in England and Wales must have an Environment Agency rod fishing license. Yes, they must. Yes, they must. And there's a further rub to this story, and I'm sure we can widen this to include the post office, the HSE, and everything else. I've fished since I was a tiny toddler, and I was raised to basically take care of riverbanks and lake banks and canal banks and everything else. You know, I'll sit there and I'll eat a bag of sandwiches and a packet of crisps and have a bottle of Coke or something like that. And then when I'm finished, I'll pick up my rubbish, and if there's any other rubbish, I'll throw that in a bag, stick it in a waste paper basket somewhere, and we move on. But part of the plan with the rod license or the fishing license that we have in the UK, I was always led to believe that it was there to partially fund the Environment Agency, who were taking care of our waterways. They don't. I mean, I fish canals more than I fish anything else. Lots and lots of rubbish in canals, which, you know, is beyond my reach, so there's not a great deal I can do about it. But there's lots of rubbish in canals. And more than that, the very same Environment Agency that is taking money off of us anglers and fishermen to look after the waterways are turning a blind eye to water companies pumping sewage into those same waterways. Somebody said on LinkedIn, I think it was probably yesterday, that the rod license is basically a cash cow, but they are in danger of killing the cash cow. You know, we had a period where we saw the return of salmon to the Thames. Salmon prosper in very, very clean water. If that water isn't clean, we will lose salmon in the Thames. Now, I don't go fishing for salmon, so, you know, from a personal standpoint, it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. But other fish will be affected. So ultimately, you know, the Environment Agency allowing sewage to be pumped into the waterways, and at the same time penalising fishermen for fishing without a licence, it's counterintuitive. If you could stop the sewage, then the water would be clean, there'd be more fish to catch, there'd be more fishermen. You see where I'm going with this. I mentioned laser beams. Ken Hatcher says first time he saw laser was in a CD player. Yeah, as I say, I thought I was the same, and then I thought about it. I probably would have been about 11 or 12 when they had laser beams decorating London's Regent Street. But yes. Mick Saunders says, remember where I was in the US? In the US on detachment years ago, they were developing laser sights at Pendleton and Bragg. Strange thing, they were using British tech. Not strange at all. We used to be, particularly in the field of weapons, pretty good at that. Gary Muirhead says, I used the Topcon receivers on my grading beam. Worked perfectly. I'm sure it did. Mick Norton says, Bobcat grader laser tools definitely enhance productivity and accuracy, but this old grader operator mourns the inevitable loss of hands-on skill for this specialist tool. Why worry about that? Would you turn down a car with GPS? Probably not. That's my feeling. His spelling is not great because, as we know, he is very dyslexic. But Footy Williams says Jean-Michel Jarre did a laser show. He did. I don't know if anybody remembers this. Jean-Michel Jarre, French composer, did the song Oxygen, or did an album called Oxygen, and a very long song called Oxygen, all on synthesizers. But he actually toured it, where they created a keyboard that consisted of lasers. But so powerful were the lasers that he had to wear reinforced gloves, because otherwise the lasers would have burned his hands. So yes, Jean-Michel Jarre did do that. You're absolutely right, Footy. I remember it well. There is our friend Craic over at CSW Groundworks. Morning, guys. Early and late. Not a problem. But keep up the good work, Craic. Been watching your bits and pieces over on LinkedIn. Always a joy. Ken Hatcher said about the Kobelco thing. All that room they've got, and they still trash the counterweight. Mick Norton, unimpressed by the Kobelco. Dan Cullen enjoyed the music at the very least, as did our friend Craig. Can't understand how some operators don't watch their tail swing. Well, there's always a question mark about, was that the guys that we actually saw in the film, or had somebody done that damage beforehand? We shall see. We will never see. We don't know. Chris Ford says, would like that much room to work in. I only seem to get small areas. Yeah, indeed. Hey, listen. I'm virtually in a cupboard here. I know how it feels. There's Dan saying good morning to Craig. There is Chris Ford with the winning entry. Paris. Chris Ford, Paris. London, Derbyshire, but mainly Derbyshire. What's written on the side of the Trotters Independent Trainers car van thing? Isn't it London or Paris, New York and Peckham? I think something like that. Kleeman says Mixon is perhaps one of the best. Totally agree. Chris Ford, no, nice and easy, no rebar, no wood, no trap metal. Yeah, indeed. See, now here's the thing. Mick Norton, who is an expert in all things, and I bow to no other man like I bow to Mick, says when loading crushers material, I was always amazed that so many 360 operators ignore the golden rule of little and often. It's a fair point. However, and I can never remember which type it is, there is a type of crusher. I can't remember if it's an impact crusher or a jaw crusher or a cone crusher, but there is one type of crusher where they refer to a choke feed principle. In other words, it pays to actually overload the hopper because the weight of that material forces other material through the crushing chamber. And I can't remember which one it is, but there is a choke feed operation. But I take your point. I think you're absolutely spot on with that. Chris Ford, what a fantastic piece of engineering. That relates to the Liebherr crane that we saw not so long ago. Mick Saunders says, not a crane lover, but by the F-K, you've got to take your hat off to them. Yeah, it really is an astonishing piece of engineering. And I wonder if we see that. I do wonder if we see that. Even things like, HS2 or whatever it might be, we look at these things. And I think because we've seen them all before, we've seen major motorways, we've seen major rail networks and stuff, and we've seen big bits of kit. Every once in a while, it just pays to take a step back and go, man did that. That crane, man came up with that as a notion and then made it. Astonishing piece of engineering. Let's have a look. Some job putting that together. Yes, it's some job putting it together. Quite a task. Take it back down again as well. Chris Ford, tongue in cheek, says, a lot of work for just a day's hire. My guess is it's going to be there a little bit longer than that. Saren, second to none, says Mick Norton. I think you're right. Jim Turner, a job that definitely can't be rushed. I'm wise to only put the right folk on the loading end. Quite right indeed. Chris, I will look up that maximum capacity for you, and I'll let you know, assuming it's available. Chris Ford also says, wants to build a pad for Mobirex so they can test a monster crane. Got it plus or minus 50 millimeters, front to back, side to side. Fair play to you, sir. Footy says, I was doing a job on the River Thames with a long week's digger on a barge, thousands of tons That was a sight to see on the Thames. Do you know, I absolutely loved dredgers. I don't know why. Just it's the idea of operating underwater, I think. I don't know what the hell that was, but you get the idea. I suppose everything and everyone influences us all, but not always in a positive way. Listen, the article that I've written is not necessarily about negative influence. It's about the credibility of the influence, and just how much weight it carries. And listen, I'm sure it's the same as it ever was. My entire career basically has been funded by advertising over the years, and basically you were asking equipment manufacturers and others to pay for advertising to get their brand exposed to the widest number of people in a magazine. Was anyone looking at that advert? The studies suggest they probably weren't, but they were doing it anyways. So is somebody posing in front of a machine and getting brand awareness for that machine a bad thing? No, I don't believe it is. Where I think we have an issue, and that's more or less what the article is about, is where you have somebody with a degree of influence, and some of them have a fair degree of influence, who will stand up and say this is the best mini excavator on the market one week, and then because somebody's paid them a bit more money, the following week they will say exactly the same thing, only they'll do it about a completely different machine. That's where I have the issue, and particularly when you go back to something that somebody said earlier. I think it was Mick Norton, I think, said earlier, I can't actually see it from here, but said earlier about there's very little to choose between compact excavators. There's very, very little to choose between any types of machines now. You know, I think we all know who the elite machines are, but by and large, you know, a lot of them are running the same engines, they're running the same hydraulic systems and that kind of thing. So there's actually not a huge amount to choose. And if you've got, you know, an influencer stood there saying, you know, this is the XYZ compact excavator, in my opinion, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I guess the first question is anybody taking any notice of that? And if they are they making a sound purchasing decision? That would be my guess. Just going to say good morning to Oil Quick, who have just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to Oil Quick. Huge fans of that brand. And I'd like to think that's different. I'm a fan of the Oil Quick brand. I'm not telling you go and buy it, because there's lots of systems like that. You know, the Lenhoff system, very good. Steelrest, very good. All of these systems, all very good. Wouldn't recommend any of them, because it's not my position to do so. Partly because I'm a journalist and I don't use them often enough to make a valid decision, but also because you guys know the product better. And that is kind of the end of the article that I've written. And as I say, I will share it in the WhatsApp group. One of the big issues I have is that we're kind of at a point of transition. You know, it's only a couple of years ago that Donald Trump coined the phrase fake news. Well, I think we've got a fair degree of fake news within the construction equipment industry. The issue that I have is that the industry may not realise that the fake news is fake news. And I think the industry needs to catch up. I don't for one moment believe that influencers of any type are going away anytime soon. I think we are going to have them for a good few years, possibly forever, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And you know, if that's what they want to do for a living, and if people are willing to give their time and attention to them, I absolutely wholeheartedly support that. But I do think the industry needs to be able to tell the difference between here is a valid review, like Jim Turner did on his JCB, like Steve Williamson is about to do on his JCB, as opposed to somebody being paid to stand there and say the JCB is the greatest excavator in the world. Because is it? And I'm not decrying JCB. I would say exactly the same. Even if an influencer was stood in front of a Caterpillar or a Komatsu, is it the best? I don't think that's actually even possible to say, because I think you're going to have. You certainly have differences of opinion with different applications, different actual requirements. You know, is it going into a quarry, a mine, a demolition site, a plant hire fleet? what are you going to be using it for? So I think all of that, this is the best. I think it's a nonsense. I'll show you the article. You make your own minds up. And there is, on the same subject, Steve Williamson saying, morning, sorry, I was reading a great article, 100% on the mark. Hope to get my review video up soon. A real review. Steve, I don't know how long your review is going to be. If it's under 5 minutes, I'll feature it here. If not, I'm more than happy to feature bits of it. Let me know. Let me have a look. Mick Norton says, Chris, are Weldex still located on the A38? I don't know the answer to that. Chris Ford says we can offer this again tomorrow. He doesn't want it. No pleasing some people. Yes, I'll offer it again tomorrow, and hopefully this time, Dan, you'll actually be able to get your entry registered. Had a great time and chat with Mr. Muirhead. I'm sure you did. I don't. I'm sure he's mentioned it to you, Dan. But Gary is actually in a video. There's a guy. I wish I could remember his name. Gary did send me the link. There's a guy who does one of these sort of van life things. He's driving around the UK at the moment in a van and just sort of pitches up in places. But he went to Scotland. I think he went to Falkirk or thereabouts. And Gary is one of his viewers. And Gary said, "Well, if you're around, let's have a cup of tea together." They did. Gary's in the video. Very good at this too. Andy Dovell says, can't watch the show today, unfortunately. Got a very wobbly end of the building to take down. Fun. Good luck with that. Hope you're all okay anyway. On this question of the day, ice cream flavours, honeycomb. I like honeycomb crunchy. Oh, yes, please. But yes, honeycomb ice cream. Mick Saunders says, read your article regarding squibs. It was interesting to see. They said part of the reason was to mention scrap metal prices. I've been doing some part-time work in the scrapyard with the Hound. I've watched the prices going up and down for the last couple of years, depending on who you sell your scrap to. Prices have basically stayed on a level. Not seen for a long time over the last 5 years. Listen, you know, what's been said in public, that's been said in public and so on. But you know, part of what I wrote about squibs, and I've got to write about it again in the not too distant future, is even the biggest shift in scrap prices is not going to generate £23 million worth of debt. And I would say exactly the same. I know literally until they finally went under for the third time, they were still protesting that their £2 million fine from the CMA was excessive, but even that doesn't take you to 23 million. There's more there than that. Footy says there actually is a haggis ice cream. Think I sent you one over the weekend. Didn't see that. Yes, Devellon was actually, funnily enough, now you said that, Dan, and thinking about it, we actually did some work with Devellon at ConExpo. I've just seen a comment from Mick Norton. I can't believe he's put it, but I'm going to get to it in a second. Yes, we actually did some work with Devellon. The agreement was that we would promote the arrival of the Devellon brand at ConExpo, but we actually had the meeting with Doosan Europe, as they were at the time, in January of last year, up at Peter Haddock's new office. Remember it well. I remember it particularly because I got a bloody parking ticket. Ben and Jerry's did a cherry and chocolate chip. So did Haagen-Dazs, but they don't seem to be anywhere in the ice cream places. I get cherry ice cream anywhere. Ice cream is the only one I like. Tell you what, in Spain once, I had, this does make me sound awfully feminine, but I did actually have a hibiscus flower ice cream. Bloody good it was too. And here is the one that I can't believe Mick Norton said. I learned to make ice cream at Sunday school. Yes. Let's have a look. When you get your new stickers, I'd like the first batch. See what I can do. Question of the day for tomorrow. Question of the day for tomorrow and Brad for the next 3 weeks is actually keyed in. But the suggestion from Craic is, what internet providers are good or bad? Do you know, here's the thing. I was sat here on Friday cursing about Virgin Media, but then I actually looked, and they have a system whereby you can send them a text, they can send you a text and stuff. And I was sat here thinking, bloody Virgin, always going wrong. And when I look back, the last time I actually had any communication with Virgin, aside from actually paying the bill, 3 years ago. so you know, 2 outages in 3 years, probably not that bad, is it really? Dan Cullen says, I'd never want to eat anything out of the Thames. You're eating London's effluent, shall we call it? Do you know, ABS, Asbestos and Demolition, just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you, assuming it is morning where you are. If it's not, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. But yeah, good to see you. I don't eat the fish that I catch. I literally catch and race. That's the way I've done it. But again, I will go back. I will say, you know, back in the early 90s, I would say, you could, you know, I was on a fishing match once with my dad. My dad was fishing. I was just there to assist. And my dad was catching bream, which is what he liked to do. Bream and roach, and a guy maybe 2 or 3 swims up actually caught tiny little salmon, no bigger than that, but he caught the salmon. Didcot, think I'll be going to my grave waiting for an answer to that. Yeah, obviously, the 23rd of, let me just, I want to make sure of something. Bear with me 1 second. No, that's not what I want at all. I want this one. Yeah, 23rd of February is actually a Friday. So that day's show, we've done it every single year since this show started, and this will be the 4th time we've done it. The entire show on the 23rd of February will be given over to discussing all things Didcot related. But yes, we are very, very fast approaching the 8th anniversary. And how the police commissioner in Thames Valley Police hasn't been fired or chosen to fall on his own sword, how there hasn't been a public inquiry, I have no idea. There is a comparison to draw with something else. I'll do that on the show. But yeah, 8 years. I've been trying desperately not to swear on the show, but that, I'm going to make an exception. It's a fucking disgrace. There's no other way of putting it. And I think Thames Valley Police have let the 4 men down. They've let the families of those 4 men down. They've let Demolition down, and they've let the nation down. Simple as that. An absolute disgrace. Dan Carlin says, they never blame the big players. Environmental agents are only out to make hell for the little man, not developers or big knobs. That's exactly it. It is low-hanging fruit. You know, and even to the point, you know, would you want to go to war over a health and safety matter with Balfour Beatty, who are worth billions and who could tie you up in legal costs and legal loopholes for years, if not for decades? Or should I go and have a bit of a poke around the demolition site of Fred Bloggs and Sons? You know, bloke and his son working to pay the bills, you know, and they've got a bit of paperwork out of place. Oh no, we'll prosecute them. That's the difference. Took a few weeks to ban XL dogs. 8 years for the 4, still going on. And 20 years for the post office finally come to light. Still the government dragging their heels. What is wrong with this country? Don't care. They don't care. Doesn't matter to them. Doesn't matter to them. So, not one bit. And the idea of banning XL bully dogs. Mick, you're a dog owner. You know this as well as I do. But in truth, there's not really any such thing as a bad dog. Bad owners. And I will admit, you know, if an XL bully does decide to go off-piste and attack somebody, you've got your hands full because they are an absolute beast of a dog. But that's not the dog. That's the upbringing. So banning the dogs. So, okay, you've banned XL bully dogs. What are they going to get next? You know, a Japanese Aikido or something like that. It makes no odds. Footy says, is it this Friday you're going to have donuts with you-know-who? I don't know. I was told over the weekend that my presence may be required doing something else on Friday, but if I can, I will get down to Kent Demolition, because we all know what we're talking about. Steve Williamson says people slag off GPS until the day their boss buys it for them on their machine, or they have to buy it due to site requirements. Everything is crap until they use it. Sick of hearing this crap. Good operator with GPS will outdo anyone without GPS. Fact. I have no argument with that. That is fact. Why would you not? And listen, whoever said it, and I think it may have been Mick Norton, I know what you're saying. Would I like to go onto a site now and watch a wrecking ball? Yeah, I would. I absolutely would. Is it appropriate for the demolition industry of today? No. Sentimentality is one thing, but I think actual productivity and all that goes with it, I think that's where you've got the difference. Chris Ford says you can choke feed all crushers, but it depends on what material you're putting through. I always liken it to having a handful of sand. If it's dry, it runs through. If it's wet, it sticks. If it's got large lumps, it bridges. Yes. I used to write about crushers a lot. I remember talking about bridging quite a bit, particularly with the old boom-mounted breakers. Jim Turner says, that's what I meant, Mark. Influencers have the wrong intended effect because they'll say anything if they're getting paid. And they will. They will. Here's a thing. This is not what this show is about, but I will just take a moment to explain. Advertising. So, for example, you know that on this show, Foss, who do the fancy lighting, they're one of our advertisers. Their advert basically says, look at us, our stuff is great. It's them saying it. The difference is where you get to influencers, it would be like me coming on and saying, you guys, I love you all. Like my brothers, you should all go and invest in Foss products, because I've tried it. I've tried it personally, and it really is an absolute boon to health and safety. It really is the best product. I quite know how it hasn't won an award. I really don't know. You really do need to go and investigate Foss. And here's a discount code if you want to go and have a look at Foss. Foss really are magnificent. It's me saying it. And as I say, I'm speaking right now to a mature and sensible audience who know that if I'm saying stuff like that, to ignore it because I'm a twat. The problem is some of these people have got hundreds of thousands of followers who don't know when they're being sold a pup. And the tail end of the article, and as I say, I will share the article with you. Here's another thought which only occurred to me when I was writing the article. How little faith do you need to have in your product that you feel the need to pay somebody to say nice things about it? Leave you to think about that. Yes, they still have a yard at Alfreton. Seen some fair beasts in there. Wife's cousin used to drive for them. That would be Weldex, I think. The problem with influencers is they only do one thing on a machine. They don't go on demo, archaeology digs, or multitask to push machines to limits. Again, it's in the article, but it's well worth saying that. It is in the article. I am going to very quickly say good morning to our friend Garrett over in the States. Good morning, my friend. Yes, bearing in mind what I do for a living, right? And I have my biggest foot. My feet are the same size, but I have my biggest foot over in the journalism side of things. But because of the amount of people that follow us on this show and on Facebook and Instagram and all those things, I also have a smaller foot over in the influencer side of things. And I can tell you that the people that are professing to be machine experts as influencers, if they are reviewing a machine as part of an influencer day, and I know he's gone, but I mean Ken Hatter has been on an influencer day, you're probably basing all of these positive comments on 15 minutes at the levers in ideal conditions, probably wearing a jacket that you've just been given by the manufacturer, and just before you go and have lunch, also provided by that same manufacturer? Are you really going to point out? Are you really going to be pointing out the faults of that machine? I think probably not. Mick Norton says 10 years ago, a group of so-called industry influencers denied me the chance to contribute to the plant operator competence debate because you might upset the team dynamic. My response lapsed into the vernacular. Good for you as well. What about ice cream? See, north-south divide. Okay, I think I know what you're saying here, Gary. Floaters, where I come from, they're in a toilet bowl. I'll dwell on that no longer. Down here, we have an ice cream float. A float. Yes, we do. And, got to be honest, I have had many an ice cream float. And as far as I was concerned, the best ice cream float in the world was always going to be Coca-Cola, proper Coca-Cola with ice cream, vanilla ice cream in it. Until I went to America and I had a root beer. You all know my love of root beer. I had a root beer ice cream float. Changed my life for the better. Probably gave me diabetes as well. Changed my life for the better. Mick Saunders said, got to be honest, mate, you should have known better. You was the part no one wanted to hear. Why? Because you knew more than them. If nothing else didn't fit their ideas. Yeah. Mick Saunders. Got to be honest, Mark, you're 100% right. I see things that with youngsters and their dogs, how they make them aggressive. My dog is a sod if he wants to be. And he's big, believe me, but he's controlled and trained. Idiots try to annoy him when he's on his leash and always on it. Listen, my okay, I mean, he's past his sell-by date now, bless him. But Diesel, our big dog, I didn't name him that, but that's his name. Our big dog, he goes 8 stone. He's a lump, and had I trained him to be aggressive, you'd be in a world of bloody trouble because he is 8 stone of solid muscle and teeth. But he's not. He's a pussycat. We've had all 3 of our grandchildren riding on him at some point or another. Leave him in a room with a baby, not a problem at all, because he's been brought up properly. Steve Williamson, also, these so-called influencers have thousands of followers. Does anyone actually read the comments? Disgusting. You look sexy, etc., etc. I get those all the time. I've got to be honest. The number of people that leave me messages saying how hot I look of a morning. Never happened. 90% of the comments are not relevant to the industry, and that I think is listen. I've said this before. If you are an attractive young woman and you decide that to pay your bills, you're going to start an OnlyFans account and you're going to get naked or partly therein, and that makes you money, good luck to you. Who loses here? Men, because we're stupid and we like boobs. Simple as that. Okay, so I've got no problem with that whatsoever. Where I have an issue, and this is where I think it is, again, I think we're at the very, very bottom of a very, very steep learning curve. I think the industry needs to understand what they're being told is sometimes not entirely true because it's paid. But what does it say about the brands that are paying that kind of influencer? Are they just looking at it and saying they've got 150,000 followers, let's bung them some money and they will say nice things about it? Or are they actually reading those comments and are therefore reinforcing that kind of sexist thing? Are they? Are they really? I don't think they are. Listen, if I were representing a brand, would I be giving my money to that kind of influencer and potentially exposing that influencer? And I'm thinking about women here. Would I want to expose my brand to that level of sexism? Personally, I wouldn't. Mick Saunders, floaters, good. That's put me off my breakfast. You see, north-south divide. Footy has got chihuahuas, but they're very naughty sometimes. More likely to get bitten by a chihuahua than you are by a boxer dog, in my humble opinion. Right, people? I've got loads of stuff to put in the WhatsApp group, so please go and take a look. Yeah, what happens when that brand goes elsewhere? Well, when that brand was the best? Yeah, I have. So there is. I'm sure all of you have encountered. There is a lady. I can't remember her name. I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me. There is a lady called the JCB Digger Girl or something like that. And I'm all things being equal, I'll probably be meeting up with her in a couple of weeks' time when I go up to JCB. It is very, very clear that lady works for JCB. So even if you're looking at her because she's attractive, it is very clear from the outset. Her name is the JCB Digger Girl. She wears JCB clothing. She operates JCB machines. It is very clear. So when she says, I love this JCB machine, I think most of the industry would go, oh, yeah, okay. But she would say that because JCB are paying her. Where the problem arises is where that is not made clear. And here's the thing. Instagram is still running, by the way, I'll just to let you know. If I were to get a deal, let's say Intimat the exhibition want me to sell 500 of those. Well, they've got 500 and they want me to promote them. So if I came on here and I said, Instagram, you must get yourself one of these Intimat notepads, here's a code and all that. I have to actually announce that. I actually have to announce to Instagram that is a paid advert. I have to announce that to them. And as a result of that, it is very, very likely that the amount of people that see that will be throttled back by Instagram because they don't actually like that kind of thing. How often are all of these influencers doing that? How clear are they making it to the general public? Mick Saunders says, have a good day, you lot. Stay safe, if nothing else. Catch you later. Yeah, catch you later as well. Dan Cullen, there are a certain person that does one big brand excavators. Comment she gets is nothing to do with the machine in question. Yeah. Steve Williamson, yes, 100% Mark. Have a good day, everyone. Dan Cullen says, JCB girl is an amazing person, great ambassador for JCB. Yes, she absolutely is. She absolutely is. She is a great ambassador for JCB. Why? Because she works for JCB. It is a clearly defined, structured thing. You have just said she is a great ambassador for JCB. JCB is in her name. JCB is on her clothing. JCB machines appear behind her, whatever she's doing. It's very clear. We all know the score there. Where it's not so clear is where you turn up and you say, oh, this excavator, best thing I've ever operated. Everything's in the right place. Oh, it's awesome. And then the next week, you say exactly the same thing about a completely different one. Because she is an employee too. Yes, she is. But the other girl never gives negatives. Yeah. Listen. I've met her. She's lovely. Absolutely lovely. She's an absolute smasher. Read the article. I'm not singling people out, and I've got no axe to grind because they do a different thing to me. They exist over here. I exist over there. It doesn't matter to me at all. I'm just thinking about the industry. Does the industry actually know what it's watching when it watches some of the stuff? My personal take is they currently don't. There we are. Right, that's nearly an hour and a half. Good Lord, people. That's an hour for today and half an hour for last week because I wasn't here on Friday. Everybody, please go and have a fantastic day. Apparently, this is up for grabs again tomorrow because Chris Full threw it back in my face. He did. Doesn't want it at all. Doesn't want it to darken his doorstep. So we'll do it again tomorrow, and hopefully we will be able to get it off my desk because it's been there for a week now and I'm bored with it. Everybody, go and have a fantastic day. Please look after yourselves. Don't believe everything you read. Try not to give the Environment Agency too much money because they don't deserve it. I'll be back here again on tomorrow. Till then, everybody have a fantastic day. All